Hello, everyone. This is Ira Feuerstein with the Built Different podcast. This is where we get to speak to founders and C-level employees from some amazing companies to hear their stories, their growth journeys, all that good stuff. And today I'm really excited to have Breck Rice here, who is the co-founder of a really interesting company called ServeRx. Breck, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Iris. It's great to be on.
Yeah, great to have you. And are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get right into it. So I always like to start with what's your company do? Let's talk about it a little.
Yeah, so we help community pharmacies get the fair reimbursements they deserve on a specific segment of the adjudicated claims for injured workers. And then on the employer side, we help self-insured employers spend less on those medications that are being dispensed for injured workers. So we remove the middleman and pass on those savings to both the pharmacy and the self-insured.
That's really cool. I'm a dummy when it comes to healthcare. Distill it down for me. What is a community pharmacy? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's mostly your independently owned pharmacies, the mom and pop, independents, and then you have your grocery store chains that serve a community. They are also considered community pharmacies. So it's basically everybody but maybe the big chains like the CVS's,
CVS.
yeah, Walgreens, even Walmart kind of falls into that big chain category. But yeah, community pharmacies, serve their individual communities.
So how'd you guys come up with the idea for ServeRx? How'd that come up?
Yeah, so I actually worked with the grandfather of the industry before starting ServeRx. So the grandfather that started the whole process was a third party company with a nice generic name called Third Party Solutions. So TPS or Third Party Solutions. How it came about was a pharmacy consultant was down helping some pharmacies. I think he was down in Mississippi, and he saw this shoebox behind the counter, and it had invoices spilling out of it. And this consultant asked the owner, "Hey, what's this shoebox with all these invoices?" And the owner of the pharmacy said, "Well, that's my workers' compensation program." And so the consultant said, "Well, it doesn't look like much of a program. What's going on here?" He says, "Well, when I have time, I'll go through and figure out who the employer is, and then I'll invoice them for the medications that we dispense." So he was sitting on thousands of dollars worth of receivables that he just didn't have time to work and find out who the proper payer would be. Was it the employer that needed to pay him? Was it an insurer like Liberty Mutual or Travelers? And so that was the brainchild at that point in time. Hey, let's try to figure out a better solution for this. And that was the beginning of an electronic process where the claim information could be adjudicated to a third party to then do all that busy legwork of calling to verify eligibility. Does that employee even work for the employer that they say they do? Do they have a carrier that's covering this? So it's a lot of verification, busy legwork, and so that grandfather company TPS was a great program. Just about every pharmacy, even the big chains, used it to help identify eligibility and get those claims paid. And a big health system saw the opportunity, Ira, to buy that company when I was there. And unfortunately, they sold to a big health system that owned their own PBM pharmacy benefit manager, the middleman that I talked about removing, and they rolled us up underneath that PBM. Well, I signed up to help community pharmacies, not to rob from them, and it's very well known that PBMs or pharmacy benefit managers really are taking away from community pharmacies, and they're the reason why we have about 3,000 pharmacies that have closed just in the last 2 or 3 years now.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, that happens a lot when these big retailers come in and they just destroy sort of the mom and pop.
Yeah,
It's every
yeah.
industry.
Yeah, after that wonderful program got rolled up under the PBM, it opened an opportunity to start a new, independently owned, not owned by a big health system, third party processor, and so I got together with some friends, and we started the new and improved third party solutions company, which we call ServeRx. Now, Ira, it wasn't an easy transition because those PBMs are very litigious, and so of course, the big PBM actually filed a TRO against me, a temporary restraining order, to try to keep me silent so that I wouldn't go tell the industry that they were about to take away all their profitability. You would think it would be easy to identify that, but workers' comp claims are only 1 in 100. So it was pretty easy for that big PBM to kind of sneak in that claim and pay the pharmacy a much lower reimbursement than they had been getting from third party solutions. And so it was kind of the perfect crime, right? To sneak another $50 or $60 out of every claim because the pharmacy just thought it was another Medicaid or Medicare claim. They didn't realize it was a work comp claim that they should have been paid approximately $50 more on.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. Walk me through your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at ServeRx.
Yeah. So as a co-founder, I take the role as the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. So all sales, marketing, client, acquisition, and client care rolls up under me, which makes a lot of sense because it's a lot of the same clients or customers that I worked with for the whole tenure that I had at Third Party Solutions. So I was the one that sat down and did the business reviews with the pharmacy groups, and so that was the reason why the TRO was filed against me, was to keep me from sitting down and telling all those pharmacies that they were about to get robbed from. So that process was about a 2-year process to get out from underneath that TRO, and then once I was free to go, speak to my friends in the industry again, then we brought them all on over to the ServeRx platform, and have been helping community pharmacies now over I think we're 12 years now that we've been helping community pharmacies get the fair reimbursements that they deserve. Now, the next phase to this, Ira, is now helping the self-insured employers. And we really have just started to scratch the surface on helping the self-insured employers. A good example, since we're both Arizona-based, I can, talk about one of our big health systems here locally is Banner Health. Well, Banner uses ServeRx to help with their retail patients. So patients that aren't Banner employees, we do that processing for workers' comp. Well, we now can help Banner with their own employees too, as well. So if a nurse accidentally gets a needle stick, it's quite a drug therapy that they have to go on to protect them from all of the blood diseases like hepatitis and HIV, and it's a pretty expensive therapy. We just do a straight pass through with that self-insured employer. It's a Banner employee at a Banner pharmacy, and we just do a straight pass through whatever the cost of the medication is. There's not even a markup on that drug. If they were processing that same claim through a PBM, a pharmacy benefit manager, they're probably going to spend, I don't know how many millions of dollars more per year because of the markups.
Everything gets marked up.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah. So it's real easy to do it when the client owns their own pharmacy, but we can help any employer. We could help a trucking company. We could help a municipality, even if they don't have their own pharmacies, because we can simply remove that middleman, that pharmacy benefit manager, take them out of the picture. And then it's similar to, the Cuban's, cost plus model, with his generic medications. We do the same thing. It's a cost plus model. And so it's whatever the cost of the drug is to cover that, acquisition cost, and then a small admin fee for doing the processing for them. But it typically saves a self-insured employer 25 to 30% on their drug spend.
Nice, nice. So, what does a typical day look like for you? I'm inquisitive there.
Yeah, a lot of Zoom meetings. It's funny pre COVID. It was a lot of phone calls, emails, and in person meetings. And post COVID, it seems like everybody wants to get on a Zoom, a Teams, or a Google Meet. And so I do spend a lot of face to face time, but it's usually in my home office or my office down at Central and McDowell.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, let's shift to industry a little bit. What major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now? Would you say?
There's a lot of consolidation, a ton of consolidation. You've got the big three PBM pharmacy benefit managers that are acquiring as many of the smaller PBMs as they possibly can. So, those they're huge companies, right? They're worth billions and billions of dollars, and so in order to keep showing growth and showing a return to their investors, they have to either squeeze the pharmacy more to take more blood out of that turnip, or they have to acquire new business. So there's a lot of consolidation going on now in the industry.
So I mean, kind of pigeonholing off of that, like how has that trend of this consolidation, these roll ups, affected your strategy or your growth?
Yeah, it's affected us a lot because now networks that we were able to manage in behalf of our pharmacy client get acquired by one of the big three that has more muscle. They put more restrictions on the clients. I'll give you an example. One big health system has 65 million lives in there, and if the pharmacy wants access to those 65 million lives, it's kind of an all or nothing. They make them take all of their networks if they want the commercial side, which is the healthcare side. And so they get forced into these workers' comp networks when they don't have any need for those networks, but it's kind of an all or nothing. When the network is independent and is just a work comp network, then pharmacies can say they can choose not to accept it. But now when you bundle it with with all of your managed care, Medicare, Medicaid, all the commercial, health care plans for employees, and you bundle in the work comp, then it's hard for that pharmacy group to separate that contract out and say, okay, we want all of your commercial, but we don't want workers comp, because the payer just says, hey, it's all or nothing. We'll just kick you out of the network. So yeah, that has been tremendous. And from the pharmacy standpoint, what we've seen, Ira, is about what used to be a 35-36% profit margin on dispensing medication 12, 15 years ago. They're lucky to get 5 to 6% profit margin now on those medications. And in fact, 1/4 of all the medications dispensed at a community pharmacy actually walk out the door below the acquisition cost of the drug. So you can now understand why there's about 3,000 independents that have gone out of business in the last couple of years.
Yeah, how do you I mean, how do you even make that work?
You can't. And if you follow the money, you've got these big systems that own their own pharmacies. I don't want to name any names, but people can figure it out pretty quickly. They own 10,000 pharmacy locations. They're retail locations that sell anything and everything. You can go there for your chips and soda. You can go there for your makeup and your hair products. Not that I need any, but you can get hair products there. And oh yeah, you can also get a medication from these locations. But yet 80% of their profit margin actually comes from the PBM side, not from the pharmacy side.
That's wild. That's wild. So let's pivot into kind of the state of the business. So what's working well for you guys right now?
Yeah, I think what works well for us is that we are not a PBM. We're kind of the anti PBM processor, and so pharmacies are looking for those outlets. They're looking for someone that is on their side. It's always interesting to me when we get into the contract negotiation with a new client and their attorneys come back with all these red lines, trying to protect their pharmacy chain because they're so used to dealing with the pharmacy benefit managers, the PBMs, and getting beat up by the PBMs. They come back with these red lines, and we have to remind them, well, we're on your side. We're trying to get you the higher reimbursement. So we're trying to actually help you. But yeah, what works well is that knowledge that we're an independent. We're not attached to any pharmacy benefit manager. We're not attached to any mail order fulfillment, which is the other thing that happens to these poor pharmacies. Is let's say a patient comes in with a prescription and there's going to be 4 or 5 refills or maybe 10 refills on that prescription. Well, the pharmacy knows that they're only going to fill that first fill, and then the PBM, whoever is processing the claim, is going to send a letter out to that injured person, or even just a regular prescription too, and siphon them off to the PBM's mail order pharmacy fulfillment. So they're going to completely even remove that patient from going back to the pharmacy. So they pay them too little to begin with, and then they steal the patient on all the refills. So it's a racket. It really is.
That's wild.
And
That's
so we
wild.
don't do that. We keep that patient coming back to that pharmacy for all their refills and getting that higher reimbursement that we can pay them.
That's great. That's great. So, from a growth perspective, what's been frustrating or maybe perhaps slowing things down?
Yeah, it's really frustrating the power that the big three PBMs are. United Healthcare's Optum RX, CVS's CVS Health, which used to be Caremark, and then Express Scripts. Those are the three big PBMs that control about 80% of the lives on the commercial side. They have about a 75% market share on the lives on the workers' comp side. And what's frustrating is they have so much power that when we're negotiating a new contract with maybe a grocery store chain, they're afraid to sign up with us because they know that one of those big three PBMs are going to put pressure on them to not use us instead of them, and so it's really an unfair advantage that they're putting pressure on that should be illegal, right? It's coercion. It's not any different tactics than if these were crime bosses, mob bosses, saying you're going to pay me your insurance so that your bodega doesn't burn down next week.
Yeah,
It's no
yeah, yeah.
different. That's exactly what these PBMs are doing to these poor community pharmacies that are just trying to serve patients.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it reminds me of like what everything that's bad about healthcare. It's like we wonder why our prices are out of control. It's because you have very limited companies controlling the vast majority of it.
Yep. Yep. And it's not health care, it's sick care. They make
Yeah,
money off of patients being sick.
right.
It's unlike any other insurance program out there. If you pay for auto insurance, they don't want you to get into a wreck because that costs them if you get into a wreck. You pay for house insurance. They don't want your house to get damaged because that costs them. Healthcare is the only industry where they want you to use the insurance because they're guaranteed a profit on every time that a claim is submitted. And so they want you to be sick.
It's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. Just to try to get your arms and your head around that concept, it's so broken, so broken. So, what metrics are you watching most closely in the business? What are the things that are important to you as an entrepreneur?
It's the collection rates for sure because we take risk at processing these claims, and so we're following because our risk is that we give a pharmacy a paid label for a claim that they process through us. We're guaranteeing them the reimbursement that we've agreed to. Well, now we have the risk on the backside of actually collecting on that. So we really watch the collection rates closely because if one payer stops paying us, we can't continue to pay the pharmacy for those same claims. And we have a pretty large situation right now with a payer that just stopped paying for claims on a fairly large account, in Oklahoma, and we have to go back in and see if we, number one, take every measure we can to collect on those claims. They're claiming the pharmacies in network. The pharmacy is claiming, no, we're purposely out of network so that we can send our scripts to ServeRx and get the higher reimbursement. And so there's a push and pull of who's actually right. And the PBMs are pretty sneaky. They'll use what's an applied contract. So even if the pharmacy hasn't actually signed a PBM contract with them, if they fill a script for a patient that is in their PBM network, they just assume that the pharmacy wants to be in their network, and so they just apply that contract. It's no different than anyone doing whatever they possibly can to just get ahead, whether it's legal or.
Sounds like the Wild West.
It really is, unfortunately.
That's nuts. So let's move to the future a little bit. If you could look at the business 12 months from now, where would you want it? Where would you want ServeRx to be?
Yeah, we need to penetrate more of the self-insured, employer groups. We need to break them away from these these PBM contracts that they feel like they don't have any other option. That they're and what's interesting is I've actually been a speaker at different CEO groups around Phoenix, and I've gone in and talked about the way that they could cut some of their costs by removing that middleman. Most CEOs don't even know about a PBM. They don't know what a pharmacy benefit manager is. So they have these risk managers and HR people that they put in place, and they think that that these HR and risk managers are looking out for the best interest of the company, but they're taking the easiest path. They're taking the steak dinners that the PBM is taking them out to. They have golf outings, and they've got these friends that have been their friend for 20 years in the industry that's taking care of them, not realizing that really isn't the best interest of the company. So the CFO's got to get involved, the CEO's got to get involved. They've got to look at that expenditure and not just take the easy road. And the easy road has been go with a PBM because they're going to take care of everything. Yeah, they're going to take care of everything for a cost. They're literally going to upcharge you, around $50, $60 on every claim. We could remove that extra cost and save self-insured employers a lot of money. Like I said, probably look at your pharmacy spend. If you're a self-insured employer that's listening to this podcast, look at your pharmacy spend and see if reducing that by 20-30% will move the needle enough for your organization. We should talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you could fix one thing that's holding you back or slowing you down, what would that be? Would it be this topic of getting into more of these self-insured?
I think that's that's our future growth. Obviously, is on the self-insured. We have a great penetration on the community pharmacies. Just about every independent or community pharmacy chain uses us today. We do have a couple of competitors out there, but they all have their strings attached. They're either a competitor that's owned by a PBM, so they're taking in the first fill and then flipping it into network for all the refills, or they are a competitor that has a mail order fulfillment, so they're taking care of that patient the first time and then siphoning the patient off to their mail order pharmacy for all the refills. So we're obviously, I'm biased, but we are the best solution out there on the community pharmacy side. So we have a great penetration there. But it's the self-insured employers is where we have the biggest growth opportunity. But Ira, I also think the biggest challenge is PBM reform. We do need to have laws put in place that will actually reform some of these unethical practices, because they're not going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. They've got to be. And in fact, even when there's laws in place, I'll give you an example. There are laws in the books on state insurance, laws that state that a PBM cannot pay a pharmacy below the acquisition cost, but yet 1/4 of the medications are paid below the acquisition cost. So unless you enforce that law, they'll keep doing it. So even though you have laws in place, you have to enforce the law. So there's a few states, like Tennessee is great about it. Tennessee, Arkansas, those states are on it. They are making sure that those PBMs are not able to reimburse below the acquisition. But there's only 6 or 7 states that are enforcing it. So other states are just letting it slide. And it's because those PBMs have millions and millions of dollars to put into, lobbying efforts and to help people with their campaigns to go into office. And so, so PBM reform is a huge topic right now. There are bills being, looked at a national, side as well as state by state. But it does start at the state level. The states have to get involved. I'll give you one example of the PBM pressure on states just here in our own backyard, Ira. So the state of Arizona had, for the beginning of time, allowed a provision for physicians to take care of their patients right at the point of care. Just like if anyone is old enough like me to remember the Little House on the Prairie episodes, whenever they sent for the doc to come out to the farm to take care of whoever was sick, what did that doc come out with? A little black bag. So he didn't just come out with his, to check the heart rate and all of that. He had medications with him as well. Well, that's been something that was available from the beginning of time for a doctor to actually dispense a medication to their own patient here in the state of Arizona. Well, a few years back, PBMs lobbied really hard to take that ability away. Well, why do you think they would want to take that ability away from a doctor to dispense?
So they can control it, of course.
Well, it was bypassing them. They weren't able to get their pound of flesh on every prescription.
Right.
So they legislated or they came in to help change the legislation to take that ability away. So all those scripts would have to go through a pharmacy so that they could get their $50 or $60 per transaction.
Wild. It's just, honestly, it's beyond me that all this stuff goes on, but now it kind of puts everything into clarity on why everything is so messed up. Because it's like the inmates are running the asylum.
Yep. And all you have to do is just follow the money. Just follow the money trail. Who benefits from a rule like that? It's not the doctor. It's not the patient. Screw patient care. It might have been better a situation where screw that. The PBM's not making their pound of flesh.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you one last thing. And we always finish with this. Is that, our audience is filled with founders, leaders, people who are trying to build something every day. They're new to entrepreneurship. They may be seasoned, but maybe they haven't gotten where they want to be yet. What is one tip that's helped you grow your business? Something real, something that someone could literally put in practice like today.
Yeah. It's kind of my motto with my team. In fact, I printed up little stickers that go right on everyone's computer monitor, and that is to follow up and follow through. If we get busy, right, as even for clients who want the service, they get busy. They want to move their scripts over and make a higher reimbursement, but then another alligator attacks them and they have to deal with that alligator, and then a fire starts over here and they've got to go deal with that fire. And so if you don't follow up and follow through to help clients, you're gonna not have that client.
Yeah, that's solid. I mean, that is great. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to really resonate with a lot of people. So here's what we're going to do, everyone. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you like the video and subscribe. We're going to tag Breck on his LinkedIn in the description, and ServeRx's website if you're a self-insured company and you're looking to get some help with these issues that we've covered today. Breck, thanks again for joining me today. You were absolutely awesome. I can't thank you enough, honestly.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It's been fun to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, it was great. It was very enlightening. It was more enlightening than what I thought it would be. I'll tell you that.
Well, no one thinks about workers' comp as being this fun, sexy thing, and so yeah, it's interesting. And like I said, most CEOs don't even know they're getting ripped off.
Crazy. Well, if you're watching this, make sure you go follow Breck. Go check out ServeRx. Now, you all get out of here and you go build something great. Thanks for joining, everybody. Appreciate it.